Hi, this is Philip with G6 Technology Services. In this video, we're going to be installing Windows 10, and I'm going to show you what I like to do during the setup process and after Windows is installed to get everything customized on a fresh installation of Windows 10. So let's get started. Okay, so we're using an ISO that we got from the Microsoft Windows 10 Media Creation tool. We'll have a link to that in the description. There's also a video that we've made explaining how to use the Media Creation tool to download an ISO or to create an installation USB flash drive, and we'll link that video below also. The first thing that we're going to have to do is choose our language and localization options. So we're just going to go with the default of English and US. And then we want to click Install Now. At this point, if you have a product key, type it in now. If you don't have a product key, or this computer has had Windows 10 on it before and has been activated with the digital license, then you can just click I don't have a product key. Now we need to choose the appropriate edition of Windows 10. It's important to choose the version that corresponds with your product key or with your digital license. For example, if you have a digital license that has Windows 10 Home Edition activated, then you can't select Windows 10 Pro here, or your version of Windows will not be activated once it is finished setting up. So you need to choose the version that you already have a key for or that has previously been installed and activated on this system. So for this demonstration, we're going to go with Windows 10 Home. We'll accept the license terms and click Next. From here you have two options. You can upgrade an existing Windows installation. For example, if you had Windows 7 or Windows 8 on this computer before, you can choose the upgrade option, which will keep all of your files and settings and just upgrade the operating system to a newer version. My preferred method is to back up any important files that may be on the computer and just wipe it and start over. That way you get the most clean copy of Windows you can. Nothing can be left over from before that would cause any type of instability or errors. And I just think it's a good idea to start off that way. So that's what we're going to do. So we'll click on Custom. And in this case, this is just a test machine and there's nothing on it, so it says drive 0 unallocated space. But if you've had Windows on this computer before, then you'll see a bunch of partitions here, and we'll want to delete all of those partitions. So all you need to do is click each one and then click on the delete button, and then confirm if it asks if you're sure. So at the end of that, you should be left with nothing here except drive 0 unallocated space. So once that's the case, then we'll just click Next. And now the installer is copying files, and we're just going to skip along and we'll come back once this process is finished, since there's nothing else we're going to have to do. It's just sitting around and waiting. So it's important to note at this step, depending on how you'd like to set up your local account, you may or may not want to have a network connection available to this computer. So what I mean by that is, by default, if you set up a new copy of Windows and you have a working internet connection connected to that computer, then it pretty much forces you to create or sign into a Microsoft account, and there's not really any way that I've found to get around that. So what I like to do is disconnect the computer from the network while you're doing the setup process. So that way you have the option of creating a local user account. And then once we've created the local user account, you can reconnect it to the network to let it install software updates and such. So if that's not a concern for you and you're happy using a Microsoft account, then you can just leave the computer connected to the network during the setup process. But otherwise, if you want a local account, then make sure that there's no working network connection attached to this computer during setup. Okay, so we'll select our language. So we're good here with United States. And our US keyboard layout is correct. We don't want to have a second keyboard layout. And we'll just go ahead, like I said before, and not connect to an internet connection just yet because I want to make sure that we're able to create I want to make sure we can create a local account. So what we're going to do is click I don't have internet. So it's just going to tell us here that we're missing out on some features. So that's fine, not going to worry about it. So we'll click continue with limited setup. And then here's the part that we want, creating a local account. So for security reasons, what I like to do is create two separate user accounts. We'll have an admin account that as the name implies, it's an administrator. And then we'll have whatever your name is, which is just a standard user account or whatever you want to call it. So that way, basically, there's an admin account and a user account. And for security purposes, like I said, it's not great to be logged in as an administrator because it just makes it a lot easier to make mistakes and have malware get installed accidentally and whatnot. So it's a little bit more secure just to use the computer as a standard user. So what we're going to do here is just create a user, and I just call it admin. And then you want to make sure to give it a strong password that you'll be able to remember. And it asks you security questions. Personally, I find this a little bit annoying. I don't want to provide security questions. And I don't recommend doing what I'm doing because it just makes it easy for somebody to guess. So do fill in something at least. And this is up to you if you'd like to enable this feature. I'm just going to click no for now. I'm just going to keep this a very basic installation. And again, this is up to you to decide if you want to turn on Cortana. I'm just going to go ahead and hit decline. Personally, don't find that very useful, so we'll just go ahead and skip it. And then here's where we can disable all of the tracking and telemetry, or as much as we're allowed to. So for the most part, I just disable pretty much everything on here. You can go through and read the descriptions and leave things on that you want. So in this case, we're just going to turn pretty much all of this stuff off. And it's all, again, to do with telemetry and tracking. So there's no negative impact, really, from disabling anything. So you're not going to have issues where you're trying to do something and it's not working. It's just disabling it from sending data back to Microsoft or to app vendors. Okay, so here we go. We're at our desktop for the first time. And like I said before, we have an administrator account that we're signed in with. As we can see right here, it's our admin user that we created during setup. So what we're going to do now is just create our basic user that we're going to use the computer on a daily basis. Like I said, we don't want to be logged in as admin all the time. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. So the first thing we're going to do is click the Start button, and then we'll go to Settings. We'll click Accounts, and then we'll go over on the side here and go to Family and Other Users, and then add someone else to this PC. So in this case, what we'll do is choose the name for this account. And again, this would most likely be your own name since this is going to be the account that you'll be using. If you're setting this up for someone else, you can ask them what they want it to be, or just make it generic and just put user, or put your own name. Choose a password. And then we'll need to do these security questions again. And we'll click Next. Now we have our local account, so we'll go ahead and switch to this account before we finish setting everything else up. And I am going to go ahead and reconnect the network adapter to this computer. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit shutdown real quick while I do that. Okay, so now that we've reconnected our network connection after creating our second user account, we can go ahead and log in as that user by clicking it in the list. And then we'll wait for that account to be set up. And these are all the same questions that we were asked at the beginning, so we'll go ahead and just do the exact same thing and just turn all of these off. And it's completely up to your discretion. You can leave some of them on if you want to. Just read through each one so you know what is going to happen. So we just logged in for the first time, so it's showing us Microsoft Edge, so we'll go ahead and close out of that. We don't need that open right now. So I'm going to show you what I like to do now that we've got a new user account on this computer, what I like to do to set everything up and just get it to where it's comfortable for me to use. And one of the first things I like to do is to add the This PC icon to the desktop. And that's for multiple reasons. It's a lot of it has to do with back in the time of Windows XP. That is just how it was. You had my computer on the desktop, and I'm used to it. But it's also really handy to access the system properties or if you need to get to a local drive. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And you click the Start menu, go to Settings, and then we're going to look for Personalization and Themes. And then we'll scroll down to Desktop Icon Settings and click Computer. And you can also adjust anything else that you want to while you're in here, but that's all I like to do. So we'll click OK. We'll close out of that, and now we have This PC. We'll put it right up there, just like it was in Windows XP. That's just a personal thing for me. Now the next thing that I like to do is to customize the taskbar area. So I'll right-click, and then I'm going to remove the Cortana button because I don't use that. It's just taking up space. And we'll also go up to Search, and I'm just going to change that to Hidden because also I don't use that. The next thing that we'll do is I'll just remove some of these icons. So I don't like the mail icon here. I just use my Gmail in a web browser. So we'll unpin that. I'm actually going to leave the Windows Explorer button. That one's handy. And then we'll remove Edge. And you can leave this task view if you like it. It's up to you. That's not something that I personally use, so I'm just going to go ahead and uncheck that as well. So now we have a very minimal taskbar. It's very clean and doesn't look so cluttered. The next thing that I'm going to do is to install Google Chrome. That's something that I like to do on every computer that I use. I just prefer Chrome. I like to sign in with my Google account, and it syncs the bookmarks and history across devices and everything. It just makes it really convenient. So we'll go ahead and type that in. google.com/Chrome. And then we'll go to Download Chrome. And we can optionally check or uncheck this help make Chrome better by automatically sending usage statistics. I like to uncheck that, so we'll hit Accept and Install. And then I like to click Save instead of Run. That way if something doesn't work, we don't have to re-download it again. It's got that file already there. So now that it's finished downloading, we can click Run. And we'll close out of this. We don't need that anymore. And since we're not logged in as an administrator, we will have to put in our admin password, which again, this is a good security feature because it makes sure that you definitely know something is happening to modify the system. There's no way to sneak that past because you have to type a password in. And this installation process is usually pretty quick. It should be done just a second here. So once this is finished, we will make Chrome our default web browser, but that's completely up to you. If you'd like to make Edge or leave Edge as the default browser, that's fine, and just use Chrome specifically whenever you want to go to it, and then let links automatically open up with Edge. That's up to you. So what we need to do now is we'll close out of here. We don't need that anymore. And I like to just remove this Edge icon because I don't go to it specifically. We'll leave Chrome there. And we'll go into settings and we'll type in default. And that'll bring us to our default apps. And we actually have a link right here to default web browser. So we'll go ahead and choose that. And you can change the defaults for other apps. Right now we don't have any installed that will handle these other types of files, so we're not going to mess with that, but we are going to change the web browser to Chrome. And that's it. We'll close out of it. So now that that's finished, something else that I like to do is to make sure that all of the icons, and this is up to you, it's not necessary to do this part, but what I like to do is right-click on here, go to Taskbar settings, and I like to make sure all the icons are visible just because it gives me a better grasp as to what is going on with the system. And that, okay, so I can't change that right now because we're not activated. So we're just going to skip that. I'm not going to bother trying to activate Windows right now, but all you would have to do that is right here under notification area. It says select which icons appear. There would be a thing here that you can use to just say show all. And another thing I like to do in here is to go to combine taskbar buttons, and again I can't click it because we're not activated, but where it says combine taskbar buttons, by default it says always and hide labels. I like to just put never, and that expands our buttons to look more like it would look in Windows XP. But it does take up more room, so if you have a lot of applications open at once, it does fill up the taskbar, so you may want to leave that off. And the same thing for showing the icons. If you have a cluttered taskbar, then you might want to have it automatically hide some of these so that it saves some space. So the last thing that I like to do is to check on the Windows Update settings, because that can be a little bit annoying if it comes up and asks you to update or to restart your computer in the middle of the day when you're using it. So what I like to do is change the active hours. So all you have to do is click on that. It lets you choose a 12-hour window. You just click on change again, and then it lets you choose a 12-hour window, so you can just pick any time that you're most likely to be using the computer. So we can stretch it until 8 p.m. here, or you can make it earlier. So for example, if you have a job where you work 9 to 5 every day, then that would be a time that you would want the computer to do its updates when you're not there using it. So you might want to have it set as the reverse of that. So you might want to have it set your active hours to 5 p.m. and then have it run through until 8 or 9 a.m. So that way it's backwards. So your active time is when you're not at work. And that way it's not going to try to automatically restart the computer when you're going to potentially need to use it and then be stuck waiting for updates to install. So we'll close out of that. One more thing I like to install is a program called 7-Zip, and that's something that you don't necessarily need unless you are working with compressed archives, like a .zip file. Windows has built-in handling for zip files, but I just like the way that 7-Zip works. So we're going to go ahead and install that. So we'll just Google 7-Zip, and we'll click on the website. And we're going to want the 64-bit exe, so we'll click that. And then we'll open it. And again, we're going to need our password for our admin account. because we're logged in as a standard user, and this is, again, good for security purposes. So malware, other programs won't accidentally get installed because you have to know that something is changing the system and type in the password and confirm for it to happen. So it's hard for it to just slip under the radar. Then we'll just click install and close. That's it. It's really quick and easy. So now what we can do, we'll see if we have some sample files that we can use. Let's just make a few text documents and I'll just show you the difference. And we'll just use the standard format. Okay, so we'll just delete all of these now. So we have a zip file. So if we had the traditional Windows tool, what you'd have to do is right-click. You could do extract all. You could leave this on or remove it and then go to extract and wait for it to come up to make a new window or whatnot. So that's fine, but I just find it easier just to right-click and then go to 7-zip and then extract to, and then it just goes right here. So that's up to you. So another thing that we can do that's not a program is the way that the Explorer works. And as you can see here, there's no file extension. I personally like to see those. So what we'll do is go to View, and then I also like to pin this so this bar is just there all the time, but you can choose whether you want that or not. And you can check file name extensions. So all of the files are going to have the extension behind it now. And I like that because it lets you know exactly what you're dealing with. There's no way for somebody to fool you. For example, let's remove that. What we could do, let's see, what we could do if we wanted to try and trick someone. This looks like it might be a picture now, test.jpg. People might say that's a JPEG photo. But what happens when we turn on show file extensions, now we can see that it's actually jpeg.txt. And what can actually happen is this is just a text file, but it could be an exe. So let's go back to, oh, I think I deleted it. Let's move our installation back. So here's our 7-zip. So we'll go ahead and put that back. And then I'll turn off file name extensions. And then we'll rename this something else. And now it looks like somebody sent a nice photo of the beach that everyone would recognize JPEG as a photo, right? But then when you click on it, it turns out, oh no, what's going on? A photo shouldn't do this. So when you go to show file name extensions, you can tell that it's actually an exe. So I like to have that on for security purposes, just so you know exactly what you're dealing with. Another thing that is up to you if you want to turn on, with Windows 10, it's really easy to delete files. You just click on it, you can press delete on your keyboard, and it just disappears. And of course, it just goes to the recycle bin, so you can always restore it if you need to, if you made a mistake. But I like to get confirmation. So just go over to the recycle bin. If you right-click on it and go to Properties, then you can say Display Delete Confirmation Dialog and click OK. And now when you go to delete something, it asks if you're sure, and you can click yes or no. And I really like that just in case you accidentally tap the delete button. It's not going to send things to the trash unless you're absolutely sure you want them to go there. So I think that about does it. That's everything that I can think of, and hopefully you'll enjoy your nice, fresh new copy of Windows 10 with all of these customizations and optimizations that we've made. And if you have any questions about this, just leave them in the comments. And thanks for watching. Have a great day.